Political Reflections, my article this weekend, The Global Economic Downturn. In July of 64 AD, a great fire ravaged Rome for 6 days, destroying 70% of the city and leaving half its population homeless. According to a well-known expression, Rome's emperor at the time, the decadent Nero, fiddled while Rome burned. In Shakespeare's Henry VI, Henry proclaims, "Plantagenet I will, and like thee, Nero, play on the lute, beholding the towns burn." The contemporary Indian writer Jeet Thayil wrote in his buzzy Bombay-based book Narcopolis, "The world is on fire, time is a bomb, 10,000 years are not enough when so much remains to be done." A Polish chef called Lukasz had the presence of mind to grab a narwhal tusk and run after the 28-year-old British national Usman Khan, who had killed 2 people in a terror attack in central London. President Macron's France experienced one of its worst losses in France's military in more than 3 decades, 13 dead soldiers during an anti-terrorism mission in Mali. 2 helicopters collided in the dead of the Malian night. Salif Keita, one of Mali's best-loved musicians, released a video on his Facebook page in which he tells President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita to stop subjecting yourself to little Emmanuel Macron, he's just a kid. President Macron then holds a press conference in which he pronounces that he is not interested in Trump or Europe's strategic autonomy. He just thinks that NATO has misidentified its enemy. He wants a NATO that works with Russia and China and fights against political militant Islam. President Erdogan says, "I am talking to France's President Emmanuel Macron, and I will say this at NATO. First of all, have your own brain death checked." These statements are suitable only to people like you who are in a state of brain death. If President Macron is diagnosing Europe's preeminent threat as militant Islam, then Fortress Europe is already lost to the geopolitical grandmaster Vladimir and his bestie Xi Jinping, the decimator of the Uyghurs. The fact of the matter is, militant Islam has been a Western asset and a spear for regime change. It is a mind-bending Macronian misdiagnosis. Furthermore, the global economy is on its last leg, to borrow Miriam Rajavi's words about Iran, who tweeted, "The whole issue is that the Vilayat-e-Faqih regime is on its last leg." Emerging markets exports growth is now falling almost as much as they did in the Great Recession and tech bust. Currencies from Latin America to Lebanon are crashing. India's Narendra Modi, whose calling card was economic growth in Gujarat, notwithstanding his fondness for a good old-fashioned pogrom, is clearly embarked on a West Bank-level settlement project of Kashmir. At a private event on Saturday in New York City, Sandeep Chakravorty, India's Consul General to the city, told Kashmiri Hindus and Indian nationals that India will build settlements modelled after Israel for the return of the Hindu population to Kashmir. 3 years ago, India was enjoying economic growth of about 9%. Now the rate of expansion has slunk to just half that. The country's GDP grew by just 4.5% in the July to September quarter, the lowest level since early 2013. GDP growth was at 7% in the same period last year and 5% in the previous quarter. Economic growth has now fallen for 6 consecutive quarters, a slide that can be partially attributed to the recent weakness of India's factories. The manufacturing sector shrank 1% last quarter. That growth for agriculture was more than cut in half. The GDP figure is the weakest recorded under Prime Minister Modi, who first swept to power 5 years ago, promising to take India's economy to new heights and create millions of jobs every year. The politics of ethnocratic nationalism are a bust. There is no abracadabra, and the global economy feels like that moment when everyone was dancing in the ballroom on the Titanic just before the iceberg hit. This is a bust of Nero at the Museo Capitoloni in Rome. This is a photograph of the brave chef Lukasz on Saturday, fighting off a terrorist with a huge 5-foot narwhal horn from the sun. It was a Tiger helicopter and a Cougar helicopter that collided while providing backup to ground forces who were tracking Islamist militants in Mali. Here you see a couple walking amid fallen leaves of chinar trees in a garden on an autumn day in Srinagar.